Okay, in the last two videos, we've been thinking about what does it mean to have gospel fluent conversations. And we've been thinking about some of the issues and some of the problems that we face in learning a new language, because the gospel is a new language. Now, one of the things I pointed out is that we can have a knowledge of the gospel. Perhaps we can draw diagrams, perhaps we can explain the basics of the gospel, but that doesn't mean that we're necessarily people who are fluent in the gospel. It doesn't mean that we can have conversations where the gospel just sort of naturally informs what we're doing. And as I mentioned, there's 4 different areas which I think we need to address if we're going to become people who have gospel fluent conversations. And the first is the knowledge. Now, you may have spent a fair bit of time understanding and reading the Bible. Maybe you've been to lots of seminars and had lots of opportunities to hear great speakers, but I wonder if you've actually read the Bible with the thought that you want to develop the knowledge to speak in a way that makes sense to other people. Now, sometimes what that means is becoming extremely familiar with the themes and the ideas of the Bible. Sometimes it could mean that you make the decision, and it's a big decision, believe me, you make the decision to read the Bible in a whole year. It takes lots of discipline, it's hard work, but when you do that, you start to see the Bible unfold, and you start to be able to shape your language with the way the Bible views the world. Alternatively, you could just take one of the books of the Bible and get to know it really well. At the moment, I'm reading through the book of Galatians almost every day. And it's amazing, as I read through it every day, I'm learning new things. And what I notice is, as my knowledge increases of what the gospel is and the way the gospel works, I'm able to just speak about it more naturally. It's just part of my conversation. It's part of the way I start to think about the world around me. So what I want to challenge you to do first of all is to think about, if you're going to develop the ability to have gospel fluent conversations, perhaps the first step is to develop your knowledge. So seek others who can help you develop your knowledge. Perhaps the book that we're putting together with this series from Jeff Vanderstock could be the kind of book that you're interested in reading and thinking about. Now, I mentioned there are some other areas that we need to consider as well. One of the areas is skills. Now, what I've found is that this is particularly difficult. It's hard to work out how to have a conversation which points people to Jesus if you're not doing it with your friends and your family. Sometimes, gospel fluent conversation, what you're doing is actually just sharing with people how God is at work in your life. And so, for example, someone might say, "How was your weekend?" And you might say, "Well, it's interesting. I've been growing. I've been changing." That gives you an opportunity for the person to say, "So how have you been growing and changing? Have you changed your diet or something like that? Have you been doing more physical exercise?" And you might say, "Well, yes, actually, I have changed my diet and I'm doing more physical exercise, but I'm growing and changing because I've discovered that God loves me more than I ever believed before." Now, you might not say anything more than that, but what's happened just there is you're not only just sharing about your life, but you're sharing the way the gospel has shaped your life, the way God has shaped your life. And so that might be a great opportunity to develop the skill. Now, if you're doing that in your small group or with friends or with your family around you, then you're able to develop that skill and appropriately approach other people in the right situation and use kind sentences that might help people understand the gospel, and particularly how God is at work within you in your life in those particular situations. Now, I mentioned there's 2 other areas that we want to look at. One is to do with spiritual warfare, and the other one is to do with the motivations of our heart. And we'll look at those ones in the next video.